Comedy Film Nerds Podcast.
I agree.
So let's talk some movies. We're going to
Let's
talk
do
about
it, guys.
Greatest Showman.
I love
Not
movies.
called fucking comedy sports nerds.
Yeah.
That's right. That tangent was brought to you by this idiot from Hickle.
Yeah. So, like your mom, I saw The Greatest Showman. And,
That sounded like an insult.
Yeah.
That sounded like it was starting like an insult.
This is like a your mama thing.
Yeah,
also.
Yeah.
Like your mom.
Like your mama watched Greatest Showman.
She was in it.
Yeah.
Every scene.
Your mama watched Greatest Showman. Hey, cross the line. You crossed the line.
Yeah. She's talking about Wolverine singing.
Yes.
And, Hugh Jackman, not everyone knows that he didn't just start as Wolverine. He has a background in
It's a song and dance
theater
man.
and song and dance man. Yeah.
Right.
So,
The soft shoe guy.
So it's not too surprising that he would be in a musical. And apparently he read 36 books. I doubt there are 36 books on P.T. Barnum to prepare for the title role. That's 36 books.
He didn't read,
sometimes
he didn't read 36 books.
That's a publicist created.
Yeah. Sometimes
He read
the
36
IMDb,
pages.
People
He
just
skimmed them.
Yeah.
people just made
He's like,
things
he'd
up.
flip forward, like read page
Now-
5, then 78, and then we're done.
Here's what I really liked about this movie. This was like old school Hollywood studio filmmaking. It was like big, lavish, period production, musicals, giant numbers, huge amounts of extras. A lot of money went into the production design, and it was just a big, giant kind of musical movie that they don't make that much anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So it was really fun to see that type of filmmaking. And it worked. It did. It was a fun musical. It was it showed the kind of the story of like the humble beginnings of P.T. Barnum, and as he created the museum before he created the circus, which I found really interesting. I didn't realize it, and it was a failure at first. Then it became popular, and then it slowly evolved into the circus that he's most famous for.
Museum of Oddities is what it was called, I think.
Yeah, it was
Something
like
like that?
Barnum's American Museum.
Oh, okay.
He called it, and it was empty. And then his kids said something like, "Well, you should have more live things inside," like because it was all just static. And that's where it slowly evolved to him like bringing in the freaks and bringing in animals and all those things. But here's where the movie kind of went off on too far of a tangent is as he was starting to get more popular, and then the controversy was starting. It's like, we don't like what you're doing in our town, and we don't like what you're doing with the freaks, and like he protesters basically with what he was doing. And also he was basically, he's a show business carnival barker. Ultimately, he was like one of the first ones. So everything was, everything was a big show, but none of it was actually, real.
Yeah.
So what he did is he went and met the Queen in England, because as his fame grew, and he met some famous European singer out there, and he decided to take her on tour to legitimize himself and leave the circus to kind of fend for itself for a while. So it was a really weird tangent that this movie went on, and the movie spent too much time on this tangent of like, well, no, we're interested in how he built up the circus, and this is what he's known for, and this is the story that I'm most interested in. But now we're on the tangent of like him being on the road with this European singer for like an extended period of time.
Oh,
I'm like,
that's
this is,
odd.
I understand
That's an
that.
odd choice.
Well,
Yeah,
it's like it's
yeah.
a musical, and he's a European
Yeah.
singer, so hey,
Yeah,
he's gonna have some numbers.
yeah.
He's the best one.
So I get that, like, I'm sure that happened, and then that was part of his story, but it's like, as the focus of a film, you don't have that much time.
Yeah,
you want to get to the good parts and the parts that people are interested in. Also, you want to get to the heart of who he was and what he achieved. So it went off on this weird tangent for too long. But other than that, like, there's one thing about the music that was a little bit of a misfire, where the music was good, but the problem with the music was that a lot of the songs felt like variations of the same song. Like, you know how, like, when you do see a classic musical like Chicago, or, even like Wicked or any of these, the songs sound very different. Like, you have a whole musical, there's recurring themes musically as well, but and even like the Disney movies like Frozen or The Little Mermaid, you have very specific songs, and they're very different from each other.
Like AC/DC, every other song sounds.
Yeah.
It's all the same.
This was kind of the version
They're
of.
gonna say rock at least 5
Yeah.
times in every song.
Yeah, this was the musical
Loudly.
version of an AC/DC concert. This was.
Okay.
This was. So that was one of the parts of, like, whenever a song would break out, and like, oh, this kind of sounds like the song that they just sang. So
This is why I hate musicals.
Yeah.
Everything just sounds like we're gonna sing and dance and have a dance and sing.
And this was where they tried to like recapture that old studio Hollywood feel of like the big old musicals. But I think they tried to do it in such a way that, like, well, no, every song needs to sound exactly the same. And I'm like, no, it doesn't. You know, you could make it sound.
You think it was a
more
choice?
modern,
Like they kind of wanted them to sound
it
the
really
same?
felt like a choice. It didn't feel like a
okay.
mistake. It felt like this is kind of what we want to do. Whereas, you know, but it's, you know, it's the lyricists of La La Land, but at the same time, La La Land felt very modern.
Maybe the guy who composed the music got fired early on in the film.
Yeah.
We're just going to use the same score for each thing. You guys just make up new words.
Yeah.
Just re-edit it.
We don't have any music left. Where our music budget is over. So one of the interesting pieces of trivia was that, and this wasn't in the film, and it should have been because it would have been a funny beat. It was so popular, Barnum's American Museum, that the crowds inside would linger too long, thereby cutting into profits. To make way for additional paying customers, he posted signs indicating this way to the egress. Not knowing that egress was another word for exit, people followed the signs, what they assumed was a fascinating exhibit, and ended up outside.
That's
God.
a good move. That's
Isn't
smart.
that an
He's brilliant.
amazing
That's
con
yeah.
man move? That's
Wow.
fantastic. Like, that should have been in the movie.
Well, that's pretty smart. Comedy
Yeah.
clubs should do that
Yeah.
sometimes. You know, you got 2 shows.
Yeah.
You got to
Yeah.
turn the room around. People still hanging out.
Come outside for a free egress.
Yes.
Free egress outside. Or just be
Now-
bluntly lying. Free beer out here. You know,
Yeah.
just walk out there and it's
And then just, oh.
yeah, it's
And
just
this
a
was
coupon for free beer tomorrow.
This was Jackman's passion project. It was a 7-year development process, and it was the directorial debut of Michael Gracie, which made the studios nervous. And
He's a visual effects guy.
So, yes, exactly. Visual effects supervisor, animator. And he made the studio so nervous that they then hired James Mangold was brought in to oversee a week of reshoots and post-production. So, I'm like, yeah, we're going to just bring in another guy to kind of tighten things up and supervise things.
Oh, that's not
Yeah,
good to have
yeah.
hang around your neck as a director.
Yeah.
You had training wheels on
Yeah,
your
yeah,
first
we're-
movie.
And not only did you have training wheels on, we're bringing in another guy.
$84 million budget, but it apparently
Yes.
did $113 million its opening weekend in the U.S. So
Yes, it's definitely made money. It's, you know, unsurprisingly, it got nominated for Best Original Song for the Academy Awards, but nothing for
Song. Not
Song.
songs.
Song,
Yeah.
yes, just song.
just one.
Just that one that you hear over and over again.
Yeah. And literally, like, the song on the Academy Award nominations, I couldn't pick it out.
Really?
Depending on which one it was in the movie. Like when you heard Let It Go from Frozen, you're like, oh, that, yeah, I
That's
know
the
that
song.
song. That's
Yeah.
the song.
Yeah.
Yeah, I get it. This one is like, oh, yeah, these are all kind
Well,
of
it's
the
curious
same.
because I had some fans email us a while ago because apparently Dave Anthony did a dollop on P.T. Barnum, and he's not. There's some darkness, I would assume, to this gentleman and how he got
Yes.
how he got
P.T.
some
Barnum?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's no question, especially because it only hints on the parts of him being kind of like a borderline con artist for the way he ran his business, and there was definitely some stuff in the movie, but it was what we call the Hollywood polish.
Sure.
It was not like, oh, that's just P.T. Barnum, that.
That's how you got to get things done.
Yeah,
when we break
yeah,
into a
it's
song,
like,
you're
you
not
know.
going to be like, he was an evil grifter. He was an
Yeah.
evil grifter.
Yeah.
And if it's Hugh Jackman doing it, it's like, oh, but
Yeah.
it's
He's-
him.
he's
You can't be that
so-
weird.
He's so likable.
It's
It
so, that's
doesn't
what I'm
matter.
saying.
Yeah.
Everyone loves
you
the
know,
guy.
especially, oh, he's lying to the bank. I don't care.
It's
yeah.
Hugh.
Good for him.
Yeah.
What were some of
Yeah.
the I don't know, it's not going to give anything away, I guess, but like some of the good side shows, I guess the freaks they called them back then. You had what were some of them that you can remember?
They had, the dog boy.
Dog
the
boy.
Face boy. They had the
Classic.
dog boy. They had the Siamese twins. It was really
Yeah.
all the classics you would see in just like a cartoon.
Like Elephant Man? Did he come from that?
There wasn't the Elephant Man, but they had the bearded lady,
Bearded
and then,
la- oh,
and then
yes.
the
I think she has a podcast.
yeah.
Yes, she's coming here next.
Yeah.
Sarah
then-
Tiana.
Yeah. So it was all pretty much the classics. So, but what
That's
what I
my
found-
favorite thing when I go to a fair now is sort of the
the freak show.
yeah. Well,
You go to a lot of fairs?
I sure do. Just for the food alone, you get all the fried food you want. They fry anything, you know. But I do enjoy the Sideshow Barker guys, you know, because I was walking on North Carolina State Fair. There was a guy. I mean, it's so low budget these days, and I go to county fairs, so it's like even the lower of the lower, you know. Like these guys can't be trusted. And I had my camera. I was just, recording these guys, and they all like hide from the camera because they're like. And one guy joked, "I'm wanted in 7 states." I'm like, he's probably not joking.
No, he's not.
That's why he joined the fair.
That's why people join the fair.
To-
They're
Yeah.
running from
They're
something.
running,
Yeah.
yeah. So I think he wasn't joking, but this one guy was just yelling at people as they walked down the midway. "You must see the world's largest rat." And I stop and go, "He's right. I have to see this."
Yeah.
And it was the possum.
Yeah.
It was just
yeah.
a possum. But I'm like, "All right, man, you got me. That's good."
That's so
It's
great.
not even moving. It's probably dead. No, there it goes.
Just a giant possum.
Yeah.
Great. Yeah.
Well, I was
there's
like, I like the oddities of,
Right.
the bearded lady. They had a headless person one time at our little county fair. It was just a
Wow.
mirror trick, it was just
Yeah.
dumb stuff. But
well, there's no background checks for carnies.
yeah, right.
Yeah,
right.
so-
You don't have to show a resume.
Yeah.
I don't find you on LinkedIn here.
Yeah.
They got an HR department at the county fair, do they?
Yeah, this guy's got too many
So-
teeth. I don't trust him.
Yeah.
We're paying with cash and tattoos.
Yes.
Right.
So ultimately, the movie was good. It was Michelle Williams did a really nice job in it, and Hugh Jackman really carried the film. I thought it just took a couple weird tangents, but overall, it's a good film.
Ride shot first, kitten heads across the land.